Silence has often been misunderstood as a form of weakness. People tend to associate quietness with a lack of confidence or the absence of ideas. But the truth is far from that. Silence is not an empty space. It's a vessel of awareness. It's where thoughts breathe, where ideas gather shape before they are spoken. It's the pause between notes that gives music its rhythm and meaning. In the same way, silence gives purpose to our words and power to our actions. When we choose to be silent, we're not stepping back from life. We're stepping into it with intention. The act of staying silent allows us to absorb more than we release. It invites observation, and observation leads to understanding. When we rush to speak, we often miss what's being said beyond the surface. Silence is the discipline of holding back until what we say adds value rather than volume. The strongest people are rarely the loudest in the room. They are the ones who can stay centered while others rush to react. They are not driven by the need to be seen or heard at every moment. They understand that influence doesn't come from shouting louder. It comes from listening longer. Silence, in this way, becomes a tool of leadership. It allows one to lead with presence rather than pressure. In the modern world, noise has become a constant companion. Notifications, conversations, opinions, all demanding our attention at once. We've forgotten what it means to be still. We fill every quiet moment with distraction because silence feels uncomfortable. Yet it's precisely in that discomfort that growth begins. Silence challenges us to face our thoughts, to confront the questions we avoid when the world is too loud. Through silence, we learn patience. Patience to wait for the right moment, the right answer, the right direction. Patience to understand that not everything requires our immediate response. Sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing, to hold your ground, to observe, to let the dust settle before taking your next step. Silence gives us that discipline. When we stay silent, we also become better listeners, not just to others, but to ourselves. Our intuition, our instincts, our internal voice, they all speak softly. You can't hear them over constant noise. When you allow silence to exist, your inner clarity grows stronger. Decisions become easier, not because life is simpler, but because your mind is clearer. It's important to remember that silence doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean turning away from the world or avoiding confrontation. It means choosing your moments carefully. It's the art of conserving your energy for the battles that matter. It's knowing that not every argument deserves a response, and not every question demands an immediate answer. Silence, when practiced with purpose, turns into confidence. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself in every conversation. You no longer seek validation from constant interaction. Instead, you begin to operate from a place of calm assurance. You start trusting that your presence, even in stillness, carries meaning. This strength becomes magnetic. People are drawn to those who can stay calm amid chaos, who don't let external noise dictate their internal state. They sense the depth behind your quietness, the confidence that doesn't need to be declared. Silence becomes a signal, not of weakness, but of control. In the end, silence transforms how we engage with the world. It teaches us that power isn't in speaking more, it's in speaking better. It reminds us that confidence doesn't come from noise, but from knowing when to let stillness speak for you. Through silence, we stop chasing recognition and start radiating authenticity, and in doing so, we discover a quiet kind of strength that can't be shaken. Listening is more than the act of hearing words, it's the art of understanding meaning. When you choose to truly listen, you begin to see beyond what is being said on the surface. You start to recognize emotions, intentions, and unspoken truths. The world around you becomes richer and more connected. Listening is not passive. It's one of the most powerful and active forms of awareness. It requires humility, patience, and the willingness to put aside your own voice for a while to fully absorb what's in front of you. In a society that celebrates speaking, it takes courage to listen. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. They wait for their turn to talk instead of opening themselves to what's being shared. Real listening demands that you slow down. It asks that you put your ego aside and be present enough to hear not just the words, but the pauses, the tone, and the emotion behind them. It's in those subtleties that understanding truly lives. Listening creates clarity because it gives space for truth to emerge. When we listen carefully, we start to see patterns in chaos, order in confusion. We notice what others overlook. It's in that stillness, between words and reactions, that insight begins to form. The moment we stop trying to prove our point and start paying attention to the world around us, we become better thinkers, better leaders, and better human beings. There's a quiet intelligence in those who listen deeply. They don't rush to conclusions or make assumptions. They wait until they've seen the full picture. They understand that clarity is not something you grab. It's something that grows within silence. The act of listening is like holding up a mirror to the world. It reflects truth back in ways that mere talking never could. It's how you connect the dots that others miss. Listening also builds trust. When people feel truly heard, they open up. They begin to trust you because they sense your genuine interest. You create space for others to be authentic, to share without fear of judgment. That kind of connection cannot be forced through words. It's earned through attentive silence. It's a powerful reminder that empathy starts not with speaking kindly, but with listening sincerely. We often think clarity comes from explanation, but it actually comes from observation. The more you listen, the more you begin to see what drives people, their fears, their hopes, their motivations. You begin to understand not just what they want, but why they want it. Listening transforms confusion into comprehension, misunderstanding into awareness. It's the invisible skill that separates those who react from those who respond with purpose. Listening is also an internal act. It's about hearing your own thoughts without the interference of noise. It's about being in tune with what your instincts are whispering when the world is shouting. When you practice listening to yourself, you develop an unshakable sense of clarity. You begin to trust your inner voice more than external approval. This kind of listening doesn't happen automatically. It grows through mindfulness and patience. When you give your attention fully to someone or something, you are offering one of the rarest gifts in today's world. Attention has become a currency, and true listeners are the wealthiest people in any room. They gather understanding instead of opinions, connection instead of control. Listening allows you to learn continuously because every interaction becomes an opportunity to grow, to refine your perspective, to see differently. The power of listening lies in what it creates internally. It nurtures humility, compassion, and insight. You begin to realize that wisdom doesn't come from the noise of constant talking, but from the quiet reflection that follows attentive listening. When you start valuing silence as part of communication, you elevate the quality of your relationships, your work, and your decisions. Through listening, you learn that clarity is not a moment of sudden brilliance, but a process of consistent awareness. It is built one conversation, one observation, one pause at a time. When you truly listen, to others, to yourself, to life, you find that the world begins to make more sense. Everything that once felt scattered starts aligning, and understanding replaces confusion. Stillness is often mistaken for doing nothing, but in truth, it is one of the most powerful actions you can take. It is the deliberate pause between impulses, the controlled breath between decisions. In stillness, the mind slows down enough to see clearly what is often hidden in motion. Strategy is not born from chaos, it emerges from calm awareness. When you allow yourself to be still, you create the space necessary for deeper thought, for reflection, and for direction. It is in these quiet moments that true understanding begins to form. In a world driven by urgency, stillness feels unnatural. We've been taught to equate movement with progress, to believe that being busy means being effective. Yet constant movement often leads us in circles. Stillness, on the other hand, offers perspective. It pulls us out of the rush long enough to see where we actually are. It allows the mind to catch up with the body, to reconnect thought with action. It's in this pause that we begin to separate what's important from what's merely demanding our attention. When you learn to be still, you develop clarity. The noise around you doesn't disappear, but your relationship with it changes. You begin to notice patterns and motives that were once buried beneath distraction. You see where your energy is being wasted and where it should be invested. This is the foundation of strategy, the ability to decide, not react. Stillness provides the distance needed to analyze without emotion clouding judgment. It is a kind of inner discipline that strengthens with practice. Those who master stillness often appear unshakable. They move with calm confidence because their decisions are not rushed. They are grounded. They don't get caught up in every wave of uncertainty or every flicker of chaos. Their calm is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of control. This composure allows them to lead effectively because people trust those who can remain centered when everything else is spinning out of balance. Stillness is also where creativity thrives. When the mind stops racing to keep up with the world, it finally has room to explore. Ideas surface in quiet moments, not in the noise of multitasking, but in the peace of focus. Many of the world's greatest breakthroughs were born not in moments of frenzy, but in the calm that followed it. Inspiration often whispers, you have to be still enough to hear it. Practicing stillness doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with it more consciously. It's about observing without immediately intervening. When you take time to sit with a situation before acting, you begin to understand its layers, the visible and the hidden. You realize that haste can create mistakes, but patience creates precision. The more stillness you cultivate, the more deliberate and effective your actions become. In stillness, you also reconnect with yourself. The constant noise of the world can drown out your inner guidance, your sense of purpose. But when you allow silence to settle, your thoughts align. You begin to recognize what truly matters to you and what no longer serves you. This awareness allows you to move forward with intention rather than being pushed by circumstance. Stillness acts as a compass, pointing you back to your true direction whenever you lose your way. There is strength in not rushing to fill every gap. The ability to sit in uncertainty without panicking is a skill few develop. Stillness trains that resilience. It teaches you to trust that movement will return when it's time. That clarity will come when it's ready. By embracing stillness, you learn to act from understanding, not impulse. You begin to see that slowing down doesn't mean falling behind, it means moving with purpose. The more you practice being still, the more you start to notice its subtle power in every aspect of life. Relationships become clearer because you listen better. Decisions become easier because you see further ahead. Challenges become less intimidating because your mind no longer reacts, it responds. Stillness turns noise into information and confusion into strategy. In a culture that rewards speed, stillness becomes your greatest advantage. While others rush to keep up, you are grounded, deliberate, and aware. You stop chasing every distraction and start creating meaning in what you do. Stillness transforms pressure into clarity, and clarity into action that matters. It is not an escape from the world. It is the quiet strength that allows you to navigate it with purpose and wisdom. Nature moves in silence, yet its power is undeniable. A tree doesn't announce its growth, a flower doesn't shout when it blooms, and the ocean doesn't need to roar to prove its strength. The natural world operates through quiet persistence, steady cycles, and patience. There's no rush, no forced movement, no desperation for recognition. Everything unfolds in its time. Nature understands something that humans often forget, that growth and power don't come from noise. They come from consistency and balance. A seed is one of the greatest symbols of this truth. It begins buried in darkness, unseen and unnoticed. Yet beneath the soil, in complete silence, it transforms. It takes in water, absorbs nutrients, and prepares for the moment when it's ready to emerge. No one applauds the seed while it's growing, but it doesn't need the applause. Its purpose isn't dependent on attention. It's driven by design. It grows quietly until the right moment comes. And then it breaks through the surface, strong enough to face the world. In the same way, silence allows human growth to happen beneath the surface. The periods in life when nothing seems to be happening are often the times of deepest development. Just like the seed, we grow in the unseen spaces, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The noise of life can easily convince us that progress only exists when it's visible, but real progress often takes place in silence. It's in the stillness that strength builds, that purpose deepens, and that roots take hold. The ocean, too, is a quiet teacher. When you stand before it, you can feel its vastness, its depth, its rhythm. It doesn't need to speak to command attention. Its silence has weight. The surface may ripple and crash, but its real power lies beneath, in the deep currents that shape the world invisibly. The ocean reminds us that strength doesn't need to be loud. Influence doesn't always come from being seen. It comes from what moves quietly below the surface. Nature never hurries, yet everything gets done. There's no panic in the sunrise, no hesitation in the tides. Every process follows its natural rhythm, unfolding at exactly the right pace. This quiet order reveals a wisdom that humans often overlook. When we try to force outcomes, we disrupt the natural flow of things. But when we align ourselves with patience, everything begins to fall into place. Nature doesn't strive, it allows. And in allowing, everything grows in harmony. Silence in nature is not emptiness, it's awareness. It's the space where life listens, adjusts, and restores balance. Every organism, from the smallest insect to the tallest mountain, operates within this silent intelligence. There's no competition to be heard, only cooperation to exist. This same intelligence exists within us, but we drown it out with constant noise, thoughts, worries, and endless distractions. When we return to silence, we reconnect with that natural intelligence within ourselves. The beauty of nature lies in its quiet confidence. It doesn't seek validation, it simply fulfills its purpose. A river flows without needing to explain where it's going. The wind moves freely without asking permission. This quiet confidence comes from alignment with purpose, from knowing one's place in the larger system of life. Humans can find that same confidence when they learn to act from a place of calm intention rather than loud effort. When we observe nature, we begin to understand that silence is not inactivity, it's preparation. Before the storm gathers strength, the air becomes still. Before dawn breaks, there is darkness. These pauses are not meaningless, they are essential transitions. Life constantly moves between movement and stillness, sound and silence, action and reflection. Each phase serves a purpose. The more we learn to embrace these cycles, the more we begin to live in tune with the world around us. Silence in nature also represents resilience. Trees bend in the wind but rarely break. Mountains endure storms without protest. Nothing in nature resists change, it adapts, and through adaptation it survives and thrives. This quiet strength is something we can learn from. When we face challenges, it's often our reaction, the noise we create in panic, that weakens us. But when we respond with stillness and awareness, we become unshakable like the earth itself. There's a profound lesson hidden in the way nature exists without noise. It teaches us that we don't have to announce every move, explain every decision, or rush every result. Silence allows growth to happen naturally in rhythm with the environment and timing of life. Just as the forest grows without applause and the sky shifts without permission, our lives too can unfold beautifully when we trust the quiet process of becoming. Presence has a kind of power that can't be faked or forced. It's not about how loudly you speak or how much attention you demand. It's about the energy you bring into a room, the calm assurance that others can feel without you saying a word. Presence is built through awareness. Through being fully where you are, not thinking of what's next or what just happened. It's a state of being that radiates quiet confidence, a kind of strength that doesn't need to perform. When you are truly present, you don't chase validation because your value becomes self-evident. In a world obsessed with performance, presence has become rare. Many people spend their lives trying to be seen, posting, speaking, proving, showcasing. But being seen and being felt are two very different things. Performance is about appearance. Presence is about authenticity. Performance seeks approval. Presence commands respect. You can perform and still feel empty, but when you're present, you feel grounded, connected, and whole. Presence requires stillness of mind. You cannot be present if your thoughts are scattered across past regrets and future worries. To be fully here, you have to let go of the noise that pulls you in every direction. That's why silence strengthens presence. It gives you control over your focus. It teaches you to listen before you speak, to observe before you act. When your attention is rooted in the moment, people sense it. They see that you're not distracted, not performing, but genuinely engaged. That's where real influence begins. People remember those who make them feel seen, not those who talk the most. Presence allows you to connect deeply because it carries honesty. It's not about impressing others with words or achievements. It's about creating an atmosphere of calm certainty. When you walk into a space with quiet confidence, others instinctively adjust. They feel your steadiness, your self-trust. It gives them permission to slow down, to be more genuine themselves. Presence spreads peace without having to preach it. Presence is also rooted in intention. It's about aligning your actions with your values so that everything you do feels consistent and real. When what you think, say, and do are in harmony, you no longer need to prove yourself. You simply are who you claim to be. That authenticity can't be replicated through showmanship or forced charisma. It's something people sense instinctively. They can feel when your words come from integrity, and that's what earns lasting respect. In professional spaces, presence often outweighs performance. A person who can listen with focus, respond with thoughtfulness, and maintain composure under pressure is often more trusted than the loudest voice in the room. Presence builds reliability. It shows that you don't need external energy to hold your own. You generate your own calm. You don't need to dominate conversations to lead. You lead through stability and self-awareness. That's why presence has such an impact. It transforms noise into direction. Being present also means accepting that not every moment requires your contribution. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply to be there, observing, absorbing, and understanding. You learn more by listening than by talking, more by noticing than by controlling. When you stop trying to fill every silence, you start to feel the rhythm of life as it unfolds. Presence is found in that rhythm. It's the awareness that you're part of something larger than your own performance. Presence isn't about perfection either. It's not about being unshakable all the time, but about being aware, even when you're uncertain. It's about showing up fully as yourself, with honesty instead of pretense. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't hide behind noise or image. When you live from that level of self-acceptance, you become a mirror for others. They begin to feel safe being themselves too. That's the silent influence of true presence. There's also a discipline to maintaining presence in a world designed to distract you. Every notification, every demand, every expectation pulls your attention away. It takes intention to stay grounded amid constant noise. You have to remind yourself that attention is your greatest power, and wherever you place it determines the quality of your life. When your mind is calm and your focus is deliberate, presence becomes your natural state. To cultivate presence, you must practice awareness in small moments, listening without planning your reply, walking without rushing, breathing without distraction. Presence is not something you switch on for important situations, it's something you build daily. It's a way of being that communicates strength without noise and confidence, without arrogance. Through presence, you learn that you don't need to perform to matter. You only need to be fully and consciously where you are. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons to learn because it feels like surrender, yet in truth, it is the beginning of freedom. We spend so much of our lives trying to control outcomes, trying to make things happen exactly as we imagine them. But the more we tighten our grip, the more we realize how little control we truly have. Life has its own rhythm, its own pace, and its own timing. When you stop forcing things to unfold your way, you open space for them to unfold the way they're meant to. That shift from control to trust is where peace begins to grow. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving space. It means creating room for life to surprise you instead of trying to script every detail. When you let things flow naturally, you allow opportunities to find you in ways you never could have planned. The right people, ideas, and moments start to align because you are no longer blocking them with your expectations. You stop chasing outcomes and start noticing possibilities. This is the quiet magic that happens when you learn to trust the process instead of fighting it. Control often comes from fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty. We cling to plans and outcomes because unpredictability feels uncomfortable. But every meaningful transformation happens in the unknown. The moment you loosen your grip, you create room for growth. Just like a river can't flow if it's dammed, your life can't move forward if it's being held too tightly by fear. Letting go allows movement to return, and in that movement, clarity begins to appear. There's a rhythm to everything in life. The way seasons change, the way tides shift, the way day turns to night. None of it can be rushed or controlled. Trying to force something before its time is like trying to make the sun rise at midnight. The effort only leads to frustration. But when you align yourself with life's timing, things begin to feel effortless. What's meant for you finds its way not because you chased it, but because you made yourself ready to receive it. Letting go also means trusting yourself. It's about believing that even if things don't go as planned, you'll still be okay. You begin to see that you don't need to hold everything together to find stability. Real stability comes from within, from the calm confidence that you can handle whatever comes your way. When you trust that inner strength, you no longer feel the need to control everything outside of you. That's when freedom begins to take shape. Flowing naturally doesn't mean being passive. It means acting from awareness instead of anxiety. You still take steps, make choices, and work hard, but you do it without clinging to specific results. You understand that effort matters, but so does timing. You can plant the seeds, but you can't force them to bloom before they're ready. The same is true in life. Success, love, and growth come when they're meant to, not when we demand them to. When you let go, your mind begins to quiet. You stop replaying the past and stop worrying about the future. You begin to live in the present, where real strength exists. The moment you stop fighting against what is, you gain the power to respond with clarity instead of resistance. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with everything that happens. It means you recognize reality for what it is and choose peace over struggle. That's when you start to feel alignment instead of tension. There's a deep wisdom in allowing things to flow. It's the same wisdom that guides rivers to the sea and winds through valleys without needing direction. When you stop trying to control life, you start to collaborate with it. You become attuned to subtle signals, small opportunities, quiet insights, unexpected turns that lead you exactly where you need to go. Flow doesn't ignore effort. It refines it, making each action purposeful instead of desperate. People often believe that control is strength, but real strength is flexibility. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to adapt without losing yourself. When you let go, you become more resilient because you're no longer at war with the natural movement of life. You stop wasting energy on resistance and start channeling it into growth. You move with the current instead of against it, allowing life's changes to shape you instead of shatter you. Letting go and letting things come naturally is not about doing less. It's about trusting more. It's about realizing that what's meant for you will come, not because you force it, but because you've created space for it to arrive. You stop demanding perfection and start embracing the unfolding process. Each moment becomes part of a greater pattern that reveals itself only when you stop trying to control it. In that stillness, in that flow, life begins to align with you just as much as you align with it.